I guarantee you, he will attend. In Congress, there's only a handful of people that count. And the people that count are those that assemble leadership. Everyone else is there just to vote. They don't get a say in anything. They don't get to choose what's going to be heard, what's not going to be heard. They don't get a voice in the issues of the day. I can assure you that when we elect candidates to our Congress, we in this district will not only have a voice in D.C., but we'll have a leader in D.C. And I can't welcome him enough. Casa Grande, Andy Tobin, our next congressman.
Thank you, Bill. That's really nice of you. We go a long way back, and you know, beyond the 30s now. So I won't go after that. But you know, I want to thank you all here today. I know where half of Casa Grande is. We're over in Snowflake because there's like 1,000 people lining the streets. I was on a horse this morning, and from you all remember Speaker Flake out on their ranch. They brought the horse on over from there, and I was thrilled, except this horse hadn't been around kids, hadn't been around cars, just been with cattle, and I'm not that experienced a rider, so we had a day trying to keep the horse in line while the sirens are going off and the bubbles are popping and the balloons are flying, and this horse, his name's Mo. Mo's pretty glad that I got to put him up tonight, so he's doing much better. So thank you for being here. This was very special that we would do something for the veterans, so I wanted to thank Brenda and thank him for putting this all together for us. Well, I want to thank you because this is it's always been very important. When Bill was talking about being a national president of JC's, I was so fortunate because we got to lay a wreath. I got to lay a wreath at the Tomb of the Unknown Soldier. And I always thought to myself, God, if I ever get a shot to do this again, I will never miss the opportunity to remember those who served, and not just those who served and lost their lives, but those who served and came back and continue to serve their communities in their state, like Representative Harding. So last year, as Speaker of the House, I got to approach the Tomb of the Unknown Soldier once again with several veterans who now have developed the Veterans Caucus at the Arizona Legislature. So we will always have a voice for veterans down there. And so we just did that in December. It was the time of my life. My wife was there. You weren't there this time, were you? No. Well, you weren't there this time. But I mean, it was just an incredible feeling. And we followed that up with legislation. You know, I know our veterans are hurting. America's hurting when our veterans hurt. Who would have ever suspected? Who would have ever thought that we would have run into a crisis where our veterans would be left outside of help? They're our number one priority. They're the reasons we have the freedoms we have today. And everywhere I travel, people ask me about our hospitals. People ask me, what are we doing for these guys and these gals? How is it possible that we could have slipped up so badly? You know, it's hard to really track this president because every week it's another crisis. Every week. The shelling continues to go on in Gaza today. We're not even talking about Benghazi because that was 2 months ago because we've had 4 or 5 more calamities happen. We had a jet go down. We had 2 other planes that now we're looking into. But I could assure you, here in Arizona, things are different. The veterans that we have, that we created a caucus for down at the state capitol, have done things. Just like Representative Harding did when we put the Vietnam Memorial there at Wesley Bowling Plaza. They're good and decent people. And just like Representative Harding, I share the concern that our greatest generation is leaving us. And I tell people as we travel this district that these are the people who set the stage. But I look at the hearts of these young kids who we have who are doing the same thing. They're traveling to foreign countries, to places they've never been, to fight for people they've never known. Does that sound familiar? That's that American spirit. They can't take that away from us. They can't take that away from us. But we have to make sure that they know that America will be there for them. And here in Arizona we are. While this calamity is going on with the Veterans Hospital, did you know that we built a nursing home in Tucson? Did you know that this budget, as tight as things are, we found enough money to go start another one in Yuma? here in Arizona, we're taking care of our veterans and we're doing it right. We continue to fund our Veteran Services Program. So I would share with you that, you know, I answer higher authority. My father's a Navy veteran and a retired New York City cop. So I have a lot of pieces to fill when it comes to Grandpa, you know. Oh my, look at that. So always good to speak when the food's coming in. So, but I want you to know that I'm not alone. That there are an awful lot of folks who believe in what you believe in. And what's missing here in America today, it's about aspiration. We don't believe our best days are ahead of us because our leadership is terrible. They're not talking about the American spirit. We're not leading around the world, and you can see it every day in the paper. Why we're not leading is creating problems around the world because no one believes when this president draws a line in the sand, it means anything. But when I draw lines in the sand, I mean things. And when we made a commitment to the veterans, we meant it. In my last campaign, I didn't think I was going to be running for Congress. I never, it just wasn't something I thought would happen. But they made me mad enough to get in it again, and here I am. And what we did with our money from our last campaign is we put it in the Wounded Warrior. We put it into places where we put it in the 500 club, the 100 club. We put it in the VFW. We put it in the stand-downs. We gave the money back to the community. That's the kind of person we are, not just who I am. That's who we are. And I want you to know that I have that record of taking care of our veterans. I have that record of caring. And that's why this was especially important today, that we would just take a moment out just to say thank you. And Snowflake today is Pioneer Day. And as I went into the church after the parade was over, and thanking the good Lord I made it through, they had an incredible program about all the veterans from the Snowflake area and during Pioneer Day. So it was an incredible day. Those people are just like we are, and they are around the district. Go to the Navajo Reservation. Go to any of the Native American communities, and they will tell you and show you how proud they are to be Americans and to wear that uniform. That pride is what we have being taken from us, and I'm not going to let that happen. I'm going to speak about the American spirit. I'm going to speak to how great we are and how great our future is. Our children aren't going to believe it. We have to show the way. That's what adults do. We have a $17 trillion deficit. We need to start bringing it back. And I think you all know what I'm talking about. It's time. We did it in Arizona. Remember how tight things were? You know, it's still tight. But we were flat broke. We were flat broke. We found a way to bring Arizona back, and we did it together. And when we needed to, we crossed party lines, and we worked in a nonpartisan manner, or a bipartisan manner, to bring Arizona together. These are the things that we're going to have to take to Washington, D.C., and it's time to stop fooling around. So, you know me, I'm not one that fools around very much. I like to get it done because I like to go back home. I like to go back to work. You know, I like to probably go back to work a lot more. But the truth of the matter is this is an incredible district. This district is America. It includes, if you could imagine just for a moment, you can close your eyes and think about what other state has this, and then what other congressional district has this. We go from Lake Powell, Monument Valley, Canyon de Chelly, we have the Petrified Forest, we have the Painted Desert, we have Meteor Crater, and I haven't left but the northeastern part of the state yet, and that's in our district. I haven't even mentioned the Grand Canyon. I haven't even mentioned the beautiful towns we have here in Casa Grande and Williams, and I mean, I've got now 16 mayors have endorsed us. Wow. 16 mayors in this district have endorsed. I've got mayors endorsing us outside of the district, 16 in this district. That ought to tell us something. Not one of my opponents in this Republican primary has a single mayor. What does that tell you? We all know we have a border problem. The president continues to forget we have a border problem. Maybe hoping for the next crisis so that he doesn't have to answer that question either. But we know that the problem we have at the border is a lot to do about a drug smuggling program and a human smuggling program that Arizona has been fighting for years. I've been at the table. This is nothing new for me. None of my opponents were down there when we had 1070 going on, when we were passing employer sanctions, when we were doing E-Verify, you remember that? That was a tough one, but we had to do it. Janet Napolitano was governor. People forget that. So both sides knew that we had issues. And I was right in the middle of the fight. And we can't solve our problems at the border. The problem we have with getting around the table with this president is nobody believes what he says he will do. That's why we don't have an agreement. That's why we can't move forward, because nobody believes that if you give him the authority to secure the border, he'll do what we ask him to do. That's the problem. We have a president without credibility on the world stage, and certainly credibility in Washington. So, and our children are watching, and that's why they feel like America is not moving forward, because they can't trust the people who are in leadership. I think we need to change that. So from me to you, I want to thank him, and looking forward to this, getting together and just sitting down and having some iced tea in my favorite, one of my favorite parts of Arizona, and just saying hi and getting the chance to visit, and especially to think of our veterans today is really special to me. So I wanted to say thank you. I'd be happy to answer any questions if anybody's got any. You just mix and visit, or
we lost the last election because of the Native American vote. Is that going to happen again, or have you been able to rally the veteran?
Yeah. Well, here's the answer to that question. It's true late in the night that when closer, how are you? Andy, good to see you. Late in the night when all the votes were tallied that came in late, a lot of votes came in and changed the dynamics for Jonathan Payton. I'm different. I've been in northern Arizona for over 20 years, and I have a lot of friends who are out there in these Native American communities, and they're upset. They're upset because we have a president who has no qualms about shutting down our coal program in Arizona. That is Navajo Generating Station. That is Cayente Mine. That is, it flows into Coronado because the coal from there comes from New Mexico, which is also part Navajo. So those people are very, very worried. When I talk to business groups about what's going on up there, if you can imagine, if you had some money and you were thinking, well, maybe I'll invest in an auto dealership, you might not be investing in Page now, because you're watching as they're going to shut down a third of the plant. You're like, well, who's going to come here if they're starting to see this stuff start falling apart? And the Navajo are having that same question. They don't understand why. And so the answer is they're quite confused, I think, in many cases about where their future is going and who their friends are. Republicans cannot just walk up there on election year and say, please vote for me. That's not fair. You have to go up there and be there with them and tell them why things are important and learn and understand what their issues are. And that's what I've been doing. So, and I know that that doesn't happen overnight, but I intend to make sure that they understand that I will be as good a representative to them as I am to you. And I make that promise to them. And I think that's when you start looking at bringing a Native American community into it's poor there. People have, there's a lot of poverty, there's a lot of alcoholism, there's a lot of drug addiction. They need jobs too, just like my family does, just like your family does. We have so much more in common, and the richness and the greatness of the Navajo and all of this district needs to start coming out. And if Washington would take their foot off our throat, I think we'd do much better, quite frankly. So the answer is that I've been working not just on the Navajo, but all the Native American communities, because they deserve our time and attention, and not just to be there for an election. So, and that it's probably odd to see a Republican up during a primary up on the Navajo reservation, but I've been there many times. I'm reaching out to them because I want to listen. And if you listen first, and just stop talking and let these people talk, you'll learn a lot. And that's what I've been doing up there. So I think we're going to do much, much better. So.
And in the last State of the City address, the mayor here indicated how proud he was of the fact that for the last 4 years they've maintained the city budget without deficit spending. And then when you looked at the numbers and broke them down, the sales tax income for the city of Casa Grande has been flat now for 4 straight years in a row. This economy is so sluggish in my business. You can't, it's diversify because you can't rely upon what were your traditional sources of income. And I don't see an end to it. I don't see when is this economy gonna come back? Jobs is the only thing that can get that. How do we fix that in this?
Well, the first thing that we did, we realized that not only were we not competitive with markets in Texas, but we weren't competitive with markets in Nevada. Oftentimes, we weren't competitive with industry that was going to Mexico. So over the last 3 years, which you've watched, actually 4 years, 3.5 years, we have now changed the dynamics of Arizona's economic policy. So you will see we took the Department of Commerce, big bureaucracy, removed it, recreated the Arizona Commerce Authority, which is a both government and private sector now division where they will make decisions on how we can help the private sector keep jobs in Arizona and become more competitive. Then we had to take a broad brush and find out how we could improve the rest of our economy. Our agricultural community got the first tax cut I've seen since I've been down there. Our capital gains, corporate tax rate. So if you start watching, we started finding a way to be more competitive. And we've cut all those taxes and improved our position. We've improved it so much that if you were to take a $10 or $25 million investor, you were to say, here's Long Beach, Austin, Texas, and Phoenix. You will find that Phoenix is now the best investment they can make. Now, many people wouldn't be surprised if I said California because of their tax rate. But when you say that we're more competitive here now than Austin, that's a big deal. And Arizona finally got there. And you're starting to see one of the things that's draining on us in our expansion. You might have seen what was going on with the Interstate 11 project. You might have, we have a lot of issues regarding our infrastructure. That is now, we have got to start putting our money there, whether it be the switchbacks here in Cacho Peak, our HERF money, which after 10 years, our highway user funds, you're going to be in the city council. You know how important that is to all of our communities, especially rural Arizona. Those dollars started going back for the first time, and they'll go back again next year and the year after. If we're diligent, and if people stay on top of the legislature and make sure it happens. You can't fix and build big interstates unless you know you can take care of the roads in your own communities. So we've done that, and just in treating your veterans well, but also cutting government. We had to, our government is now 1/4 of what it was at its peak. We cut 1/4 out of government. It was a lot, it hurt all our cities, not just Casa Grande, it hurt a lot. And yet, it was the towns and the counties who came together and helped the state. Because when we passed that Prop 100, remember that was that 1 cent sales tax for 3 years? The towns and counties didn't get that money through the shared revenue agreement. It all came to the state so that we could reduce the impacts on our communities and then reserve some dollars so that we could put it back in the form of economic development and our infrastructure. So we're there. Arizona is truly there. The problem is that the economy on a national scale is very speculative. And I think that's what's slowing us down, quite frankly. So we'll be opening, cutting a ribbon in Mexico City here in the beginning of October. We've been working on this now for 2 years. Arizona's largest trading partner is Mexico. Our largest trading partner. Can you imagine we don't have a trade office in Mexico City? We're putting a trade office in there. I think it's on October 3rd or 4th that I'll go down. It's our 3rd trip. Bipartisan trip, going down, having brought our universities, our technology councils, our tourism folks, to start opening up this door. I will share with you that for folks to not understand what the value of Central and South America is over the next 100 years for consumption, we are in the gateway. We are the pathway. Senator Rufo will be coming here. He's going to tour Arizona with me here next month. And they're talking about not just having a Guaymas deep sea port, but one in Ensenada. That's big stuff for us because, that train's going to come through the Yuma area, and then it's going to come this way. And as you look down to the Guaymas, this is about trade and us exporting. Arizona is on a cusp, but we have to have these infrastructure dollars, and that's been difficult to get. It's especially difficult to get when you have a $17 trillion debt and you're trying to keep your bills paid. So think I can help there. And I think that Arizona is on the precipice of moving forward, but we need some federal policies to get out of our way. You know, the first thing we did when Governor Napolitano left was we stopped regulating. We stopped regulating. We actually passed a bill, it was the regulatory moratorium. It says, you know, we're almost 100 years old at the time. We said, can't we just take 2 years off and not regulate? Not pass a law that would regulate on business? And business loved it because there was certainty. And I think right now what you're talking about is folks aren't investing, they're not sure to buy because they're not certain. There's a very uncomfortable political climate that doesn't lend to leadership. And I think that's also holding us back. So maybe that'll help. It is much better, but we can do much, much better.
Andy?
Yep. Okay, I'll go there.
Statement. I'm for immigration reform, but there can be no immigration reform until the border is secured, the fence is built. And when that happens, then we can start talking about immigration reform.
Yeah, there's no question. If I were back in Washington now and the president said, okay, I'll secure the border, do you think I can believe him?
No.
There you go.
We
That's why
already
there's no-
gave him the money back in 2008.
Well, that's why you don't have an agreement today. And in my view, no agreement needs a pathway to citizenship. Most of these people who are here are not wanting to be citizens. They're here to work. And so, in my view, we have such a large drug trafficking problem here. We owe it to our law enforcement officers and our border patrol to give them the resources so their families know that they have everything they need to do down at the border, you know, to keep themselves safe too while they do their duties. So, but I appreciate that. I agree. Yes, ma'am.
Question, where do you stand regarding Common Core?
Common Core is a bad deal. Here's the problem. First off, our Ames test was a problem. So we got rid of Ames. And I'll share with you, I think we all want more work in the classroom. I think we need more rigor. Everybody believes that. Everybody believes it. In Arizona, what we did in the last several years, there's no teacher tenure left in K-12. Might not have gotten reported in the press, but there isn't. And starting next year, if you can't read and write and do your math, you can't graduate from the 3rd grade. A lot of people don't know that we passed that. So when we got rid of Ames, we got rid of it for a reason, because we dumbed that test down year after year after year just to get people out of high school, and it wasn't working. So clearly we need a new exam. Here's the problem with Common Core, besides all the political problems. Just this piece on its face value. Rural communities are not ready to make this change. And I will tell you, because there's a lot of training that goes into it. And these teachers who are in rural Arizona, oftentimes they don't stay long. They're moving for who's paying more money. We're not prepared. I've told Mr. Huppenthal this very thing. I said, so even if I thought it was a good idea, I don't see how it can possibly be implemented. And I think it's a bad idea. We already have 2 exams, and I suggested we use these. For high school, we already have the SAT test. Let's just use that for the time being until our citizens and our teachers can come together on a new exam. And for K-12 or primary grades, K through 8, we can use the Stanford 10. So we already have standardized testing that we can use. Let's go back to the table and let's get this one right. Let's do it with parents and the teachers and the local communities more engaged in the process. I think we were asleep at the switch, quite frankly. And folks were like, okay, well, it's another test coming up, as if we don't throw enough of that at our teachers and our students. Let's just get this one right, and let's not augment whatever we do to the next one. Yeah, I was born in New York City. They have what they call the Regents exam to get out of high school. And if you score well enough in the Regents, you're getting a scholarship to go to a state school. You know, and that's so maybe that's the direction we need to go. But I think, you know, this Common Core thing has never been at the top of our list, but everybody wants more rigor in the classroom. Everyone wants the teacher spending more time with the children, and that can happen, but Common Core is not going to be able to do that for us.
Yeah, Andy, I had to, I don't know if it's a privilege or not, but I ran Rick Renzi's campaign office here in 2008. And one of the things that helped us get the Native American vote was he made a promise out of the gate that when he won, that there would be a Native American on his staff that would keep office hours with the nations. He got their endorsement And it was the first Republican ever to be endorsed by any of the nation.
Wow, well, I'm gonna tell you, this district is now bigger than the one Rick Renzi ran in, if you can even imagine that. And I can't, but it is. To put this district in perspective, we have 15 counties, there are 4 not in the district. So think about that for a minute, which is La Paz and Yuma, which you probably figure, okay, that's as far away as you can get, Santa Cruz and Cochise. Every other county's in this district, every one. So as you go through this process, you're right. So, you know, we're trying not to think too far ahead, but as big as this district is, I'm thinking what I need is a couple of, you know, congressional buses so I can travel around on the weekends and have Billy drive and Mike on the back, and we'll travel community to community every weekend that we're back, because I don't know how you can put an office in Window Rock. And because there's only so much money, I don't even know if they give you enough for 2 or 3 or whatever. But my thought is how can we best serve? And that's kind of, so I'm willing to be very aggressive about trying some new things to be able to get.
Well, his staffer was in one of his offices, they just went around to the nation.
Oh, okay, well, that might actually work, yeah, that might, we have a lot of, on the way over, I was getting texts and emails and everything from folks on the, I have a few friends who are putting up Tobin signs on the Navajo this morning, and they sent me pictures. They go, hey, how's this look? And people are staring at them as they're putting up this Tobin sign in the Navajo Nation. So it's having fun with it, which is good. And you know what? If you look at what's going on, half of America isn't registered to vote. The other half doesn't vote. You know, the truth of the matter is, I'd rather lose if everybody will go vote. If everybody participates, I'm fine. Then I lose, and the process works. I only get frustrated when what we've got is we have 1/4 of the people who are going to participate. So out of that, only half of those get to pick the winner. So engaging folks and getting them to register and get engaged in this process, especially on the reservation, is important as well. Those young people need some opportunities to.
If they use the SAT test or the PSA test, is the state going to pay for that?
I think the answer is that we're already paying for the existing test anyway, the Ames test, and we would just use those dollars to continue to pay for whatever exam they
That's
pay.
fair.
Yeah.
If I could.
Yeah.
I'd like to say a few words. I met Andy maybe after you did. But I was in the legislature for a while, and in the mid-'80s, the legislature passed a piece of legislation to create the Arizona Vietnam Memorial. And in that legislation, there was some seed money in it to get it started. And I was selected as the chairman of that. And so it was easier to get the legislation passed, actually. And then all of a sudden, I become the chairman of that darn thing. And with some seed money, and I never raised money in my life. And so we had a very good committee formed. And we're out looking for help. And I would say, I don't know if Andy was the first, but he was sure in the head of the line with the Phoenix JCs. And they came to our rescue and stuck with that program until we dedicated in November of 1985. And I think maybe Andy was even there. But, so he has been involved in veterans groups, and it's a long time ago, it seems like, and I'm not sure if I had a lot of gray hair at that time. But I just want you to know that Andy really, with his leadership at that time, really stepped up to help us raise the money and get some notorieties, and it all worked out good. We were able to raise the funds that we needed to build it. I think it's one of the neatest Vietnam memorials in the country. Of course, that's easy for me to say, and probably one of the best bronzes in the country. But Andy was there to help us out, and it's without people like Andy at that time, they probably would have just fell flat on his face. But anyway, and my dad was an exhausted rooster in the Jersey.
We had, I remember it very well because we had actually done a miniature model of the Vietnam Veterans Memorial that was going up. And we went out and we sold them for like $10,000 a pop, which was a ton of money back then. And we did sell a bunch of them, but it generated enough excitement that it really helped the rest of it. Thanks, Jim. If you want to see Jim and I in the same video together, go to andytobin.com. Have you seen it?
No.
You need to go pull up the latest video. It's at andytobin.com. You're in it. I'm in it, you're in it. So, somebody should have asked you if that was okay. So thank you so much on a Saturday afternoon for taking some time out of your day and coming down and visiting with me. I really appreciate it. And, let's hang around and have a bite to eat and visit them more. So thank you.
Oh, good, how you doing? Saw your signs around town.
Oh, yeah, I'm going. Yeah.